The Intercept has a disturbing article about what the FBI is currently up to. The FBI is using unvetted right-wing blacklists to question activists about their support for Palestine. So this is now a trend. This keeps happening. Where the FBI will show up and be like, hey, we saw that you posted something on social media. And the issue of Palestine is one where they take extra time to look at it. Now remember, this is happening at the same time that the government dismantled the division of the Department of Homeland Security that was looking into white supremacist extremism. So, statistically, there's a decent number of white supremacist attacks that happen in the country, whether against individuals or some sort of bigger plot or some sovereign citizens movement. It's not just white supremacist research that they dismantled or investigations that they dismantled. It's just right-wing extremism. There's actually more right-wing extremism than Muslim extremism. Of course, the reason for that, to be totally clear, is that there are, well over half the country in the U.S., or that's not true, about half the country in the U.S. are right-wing, and maybe 25% are far right-wing. So there's just way more right-wingers. So numerically, of course, there's going to be more right-wing incidents than there are going to be Muslim incidents when less than 1% of the population is Muslim. But either way, the Department of Homeland Security dismantled that part of the Department of Homeland Security. They were like, oh, we don't need this anymore. Why? Why? Did you not see at Charlottesville, Jews will not replace us? They were marching and protesting the taking down of a Confederate monument, and then somebody ran somebody over with a car. Like, okay, this stuff, there should be some people investigating that. No, as they're dismantling that, they're taking an extra look at people who are engaged in pro-Palestine activism. Oh. I tried to fight it off. I couldn't fight it off. Okay. I think it's all out of my system now. Anyway. So there's a guy named Ahmad Aburas. Aburas. I'm so white. And he's a student at Seton Hall, and the FBI showed up at his school one day, and they were like, "Oh, we need to talk to you." He's like, "What?" So we talked to them. It turns out that the FBI referenced Canary Mission, which is an anonymously run right-wing website that compiles dossiers on activists who are pro-Palestine. They created a list of these people, and the FBI is using it. Now, when you ask the FBI, like, oh, where's your evidence? They're like, I don't know. So in other words, hey, I saw on some right-wing blog that they don't like these pro-Palestine activists. And now we open investigations into them. What in the fuck? So, it could be hardcore Zionists. It could be super far right-wingers. It literally could be white supremacists who are like, oh, this guy's a problem. And the FBI's like, yeah, we should look into that. Based on what? So you ready for this? This is why they decided to look into this guy. Now, back in 2014, there was a massive Israeli incursion into Gaza. They bombed everything in sight. They bombed the only power plant in Gaza. They bombed hospitals. They bombed schools. They killed at least 80% civilians. It was a fucking disaster, okay? And it was a humanitarian crisis, and Netanyahu was a goddamn war criminal as far as I'm concerned. So during that incident, the response from the Israeli government, every time people called them out on what they were doing, they would always say, no, we're killing Hamas. And people would be like, no, you're not. And they'd say, no, seriously, the people who were killing are Hamas members. Now, again, I just told you, the UN report came out, 80% civilian death rate. They weren't killing Hamas. Maybe 20% of the time they were killing Hamas, but 80% civilian death rate. So they were calling everybody Hamas. That's what they were doing. They were saying, oh, yeah, they're all Hamas. Whatever. They're all Hamas members. That's what it is. So in the context of that, Ahmad Aburas goes on Twitter and he says, quote, "We are all resistance. We are all Hamas. We are all human." So that's not him saying, I philosophically and politically agree with Hamas. That's him saying, you guys keep killing people and then saying they're Hamas. So his reaction was, we're all the resistance, because there's illegal occupation going on there and apartheid. We are all Hamas, because you keep saying you're killing Hamas. Okay, we're all Hamas then. We are all human. The FBI took that and they opened up an investigation into him. What a preposterous waste of resources, time, money. At the same time, they dismantled the right-wing division of the Department of Homeland Security. So some sovereign citizens group out there could be planning something. Whatever. Are they brown? Don't care. So it's fucking stupid, man. It's just stupid. And again, here we have an instance of, this isn't the government cracking down on somebody's free speech. You're going to open an investigation simply because somebody's pro-Palestine. And this keeps happening, by the way. This keeps happening. This happened. They have 4 documented cases, but they expect there's many more than that. Like the FBI is scouring right-wing blogs to try to find people who are pro-Palestine, and then they open up investigations into them. I'm waiting for the free speech warriors to say, whoa, 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 whoa. We're going to make a federal case out of somebody's comments online that are pro-Palestine? Is that really necessary? Is that really worth it? People have a right to free speech, man. They can say whatever the fuck they want. So what are we doing here? Terrible. This is terrible. And this is part of a trend here. This keeps happening over and over, where there's more and more of a crackdown on pro-Palestine activism. I mean, we spoke about the hurricane relief money in Houston. If you wanted to apply for it, you had to sign a waiver saying, I will not support boycott, divestment, and sanctions of Israel. So theoretically, by the way, if I lived in Houston and I was affected by that hurricane, I wouldn't have been able to get any government money to help rebuild. Other people would have. I wouldn't have, because I publicly support BDS. That is nothing but taking away somebody's free speech with official punitive actions from the government. That's what that is. It's one of the real legitimate First Amendment issues in the country. And nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. Credit to The Intercept. They actually do. The Intercept does. But I don't see anybody else talk about it. And it's fucking frustrating, because here you have a real crackdown on free speech and very little discussion. And instead, we'll keep talking about pink-haired college kids who try to deplatform speakers. Let's do that.